The title of my talk is Arriving at the Point of Departure. And I'd just like to start, to bring us into the present time, with a few lines from T.S. Eliot, probably familiar to many of you here. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know it for the first time. The Nobel Prize-winning author, Orhan Pamuk, opens his novel, The Black Book, with a quotation about Ibn Arabi, which evokes a realm of mystery that is hidden from those who are ensconced in a world of what they believe to be scientific fact. One of Orhan Pamuk's characters later suggests that there exists in both Eastern and Western traditions the idea of a center hidden from the world. For some, this hidden center is transcendent, found only in heaven. For some, this hidden center is to be found within, in the heart of humanity. For some, this hidden center is to be found everywhere and yet nowhere. It cannot be located in space because it is beyond all our notions of time and space, yet it is omnipresent, universal, collective, and at the same time unique to each individual. This constitutes the mystery which is revealed and concealed in every place, yet confined to no place, for everything is included in that placeless essence which is bound by no thing, yet which contains all. God cannot be contained or located in any one place, but rather all places are contained in him. In one sense, this all-inclusive divinity cannot be contained by anything but itself. Yet Ibn Arabi frequently quotes the divine saying, "Neither my heavens nor my earth contain me, but I am contained in the heart of my believing servant." God in his fullness can only be embraced by the heart which is totally purified and empty of its own egoism. At the same time, God is always present with us, even in our limited beliefs, according to the divine saying, which I think Pablo or Stephen mentioned yesterday, "I am in my servant's opinion of me." So until we become constantly and fully aware of God's presence in every place, while acknowledging that he is simultaneously beyond all place, we continue to journey and search for him, like Farid ad-Din Attar's birds, who set out in search of the Simurgh, the mythical falcon, on the summit of Mount Kaf. It is not until and if we arrive that we realize that all along we were seeking our true self. As Attar points out, we need to journey far to discover the nearness, to discover our own nothingness, and to find out who we really are. The epigraph at the beginning of Orhan Pamuk's Black Book is as follows. Ibn Arabi writes of a friend and dervish saint who, after his soul was elevated to the heavens, arrived on Mount Kaf, the magic mountain that encircles the world. Gazing around him, he saw that the mountain itself was encircled by a serpent. Now, it is a well-known fact that no such mountain encircles the world, nor is there a serpent. Ibn Arabi's friend and dervish saint, who is mentioned in this passage, is in fact Musa Abu Imran al-Sadrani. He was a disciple of the great Sheikh Abu Madian, who was born near Seville, but who later spent most of his life in the Maghreb. Ibn Arabi was deeply influenced by Abu Madian and had a great desire to meet him. At that time, Abu Madian was in Murcia, and being aware of Ibn Arabi's wish, he sent his companion Sadrani to visit Ibn Arabi in Seville, with the message that although they could meet together in the spirit, they were not to meet in the flesh. Ibn Arabi tells us, and this is one of the stories in the Sufis of Andalusia, which if you have that new edition, you'll be able to look up. He tells us that one of the greatest masters he had met on the spiritual path, Yusuf bin Yakhlaf al-Kumi, had been told by Sadrani that the latter had once reached Mountain of Kaf, which surrounds the earth, and that he had performed the forenoon prayer at its base and the afternoon prayer at its summit. On being asked the height of the mountain, he had replied that it was 300 years' journey high. Ibn Arabi tells Musa al-Sadrani's story in the following way. My friend and I walked to Mount Kaf, which is the mountain encompassed by the ocean which girdles the earth. God has created a snake on the shore of that ocean, between the ocean and the mountain. Its body encircles the sea until its head joins its tail. We stopped there with it, and my companion told me to greet it, and it will reply. Musa said, so I greeted it, and it said, and on you be peace and the mercy of God and his blessings. And then it said to me, how is Abu Madian? Abu Madian was in Murcia at that time, so I said to it, I left him in good health. How do you know him? It was surprised and said, is there anyone on the face of the earth who does not know him and love him? Ibn Arabi writes that Sadrani became one of the substitutes of the spiritual hierarchy and could locate himself in any place on earth he wished to be in, while Abu Madian was Imam of the left who, shortly before he died, became the pole, the qutb, around whom the world turns. It is therefore perhaps not so surprising that the snake knew of him. The Arabic word for snake or serpent, which Ibn Arabi uses in retelling this story, is haya, from the same Arabic root as hay, meaning life. This seems to allude to the creation of life between ocean and mountain, water and earth, and the presence of the living at the boundary between the visible and invisible worlds. The motif of the snake or dragon whose head is joined to its tail is common throughout the world mythology and sacred narrative, whether ancient Egyptian, Hindu, Aztec, Norse, or Chinese. The ancient Greeks called it the Ouroboros. It is an archetypal symbol which appears with many variations and diverse meanings, principally to do with the cyclical nature of the universe, the constant renewal of life, and the balancing of opposites. The Swiss psychologist Carl Jung wrote of it in relation to alchemy, saying, "It was clear to the more astute alchemists that the Ouroboros is a dramatic symbol for the integration and assimilation of the opposite. This feedback process is at the same time a symbol of immortality, since it is said of the Ouroboros that he slays himself and brings himself to life, fertilizes himself and gives birth to himself. He symbolizes the one who proceeds from the clash of opposites, and he therefore constitutes the secret of the prima materia, which unquestionably stems from man's unconscious." However, Jung's colleague Henri Corbin, the celebrated 20th century commentator on Ibn Arabi, would perhaps prefer to say that it stems not from the human being's unconscious, but from the supraconscious. For Ibn Arabi also, the basic material which is transformed through the alchemical process is the human being. Ibn Arabi was referred to as the kibrit al-ahmar, the red sulfur, which is an alchemical substance used to transform silver into gold. It highlights Ibn Arabi's reputation as a catalyst for the transformation of the human being through actualizing the essential perfection which is potentially every person's birthright. In fact, according to other entries in the Encyclopedia of Islam, to which Orhan Pamuk attributes his epigraph, it is well known in Islamic cosmology that Mount Qaf is the mountain encompassed by the ocean which girdles the earth. So the mountain is between heaven and earth, and much has been written about its fixity and its movement, its representing the obstacle of the ego, or its allowing the movement of the bodily ascension to heaven and the descent of the spirit. According to Islamic cosmology, Mount Qaf is at the ends of the known earth. It is the place of entry into the world of mystery of God's vast earth, and the permanent dwelling place of Khida, the mysterious guide to the secret knowledge that is with God. And in his Mathnavi, Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi writes, Dhul Qarnayn went towards Mount Qaf. He saw that it was made of pure emerald, and that it had become a ring surrounding the whole world. This is clearly not physical geography we're talking about, but a visionary geography at the ends of the known universe. We are already entering, here and now, another dimension, which is the world of the imagination, an intermediate world or isthmus, barzakh, as Ibn Arabi calls it, between the world of the senses and the world of spirit, meanings, and intellect. This visionary geography remains imprinted in the human imagination. It is not that these motifs are inventions of the human imagination, but they are universal meanings which take on an imaginative form according to the cultural context and the receptivity of the people. If we were to go even now to the ends of the earth, to the outer limits of the known universe more than 13 billion light years away, and still expanding at the speed of light, no physicist or astronomer could say whether there is a boundary we can cross into yet another dimension and enter another space, a space that is beyond place. Yet this journey beyond Mount Qaf is not one through physical space, but an inner journey of transformation. Like the Ouroboros, the snake whose head joins its tail, the point of arrival is at the point of departure. This is pointed out by Suhrawadi's Crimson Angel, who comes from Na Koja Abad, or the no place beyond Mount Qaf. Suhrawadi, the Sheikh al-Ashraq, writes, Mount Qaf rises up all around the world, encircling it completely. In fact, it consists of 11 mountains. That is where you will return when you have rid yourself of your bonds. Because it is from there that you were taken of old, and because every being finally returns to its original form. However far and long you travel, you will arrive again at the point of departure. Whoever possesses the aptitude can cross the first 2 mountains in an instant. You too, if you actualize in yourself the natural ability to cross these mountains, you will cross them both in an instant. After that, the sage says, it's easy to cross the other mountains on condition that one knows. Then, beyond Mount Qaf can be found the source of life, which is in the darkness. If you want to embark on the quest for this source, the traveller is told, wear the same sandals as the prophet Khida. Whatever way you go, if you are a true pilgrim, you will complete your journey. If you are Khida, you too can pass beyond Mount Qaf without difficulty. In Islamic cosmology, Mount Qaf is both center and circumference. It is the mountain which encompasses the world and is linked to every mountain and every place on earth. But it is also connected to the rock or emerald stone, which is either at the top of the primordial mountain or upon which it rests, the axis mundi, which is the central fixed pillar about which the world turns. As Murcia Eliade observed, Every microcosm, every inhabited region has a center, that is to say, a place that is sacred above all. And when describing the creation of this world in his Uqlat al-Mustalfiz, Ibn Arabi says that God ordered an angel to place a rock at the center of the earth. The angel then rotated the earth's sphere, making that which surrounds the center an immense spherical rock, and in the center of that rock the angel placed an animal with a green leaf in its mouth. The green leaf in the animal's mouth symbolizes the constant renewal of life in divine knowledge. The scholar Anne-Marie Schimmel raises a question concerning this matter. She writes, "We are faced with a dilemma. God is always described as la makan, there where no place is, or as being in na koja abad, where there is no where. And yet the Quran describes him as the one who is upright on the throne and states that his throne embraces the whole universe. His throne is beyond heaven and earth and what is in them, and yet he, who is closer to mankind than the jugular vein, dwells in the innermost sanctuary of the human heart." She then mentions a saying of the Prophet Muhammad, who, on speaking of his own ascension into heaven, admonished his companions, "Do not prefer me to Yunus ibn Matta," that's Jonah, "do not prefer me to Yunus ibn Matta, because my journey is into the height and his journey is into the depths." Anne-Marie Schimmel comments here that there are two ways of reaching the divine: the journey upwards to Mount Kaf and beyond, and the journey into the ocean of one's soul. In fact, the all-compassionate divinity is established on the throne, and at the same time, he is with us wherever we are, since the heart is the throne on which the compassionate one is seated. Ibn Arabi says, "The heart is the throne and not bound by any specific attribute. On the contrary, it gathers together all the divine names and attributes, just as the all-compassionate possesses all the most beautiful names. In this way, the heart of the person who has realized their perfect humanity is all-embracing. It is not limited by any particular attribute, tied to any fixed belief, or confined by any fixed position or location. As Ibn Arabi says, the most universal distinction is that a person is not limited by any position which distinguishes him." So Ibn Arabi connects spatial non-fixity with this non-fixity of belief concerning reality, and he often quotes the Quranic verse, "To God belongs the east and the west. Wherever you turn, there is the face of God. God is all-encompassing, all-knowing." In his Fusus al-Hikam, he writes, "Take care not to be bound by any particular belief while denying all others, for much good would escape you. In fact, knowledge of how things are would evade you. So be in yourself the substance of all forms of belief, for God the High is too vast and great to be confined to one belief rather than another. He, God, has said, 'Wherever you turn, there is the face of God,' without mentioning any particular orientation. Like Moses' mountain which crumbled to dust in the face of the real, when that which is temporal joins with the eternal, no trace of it remains." And Ibn Arabi comments, "How would a heart which contains the eternal be aware of what has come into existence recently?" While the extreme height of the throne is an example of the height of place, makan, Ibn Arabi says the height of rank, makana, is like everything is annihilated except his face, and to him returns all order. Despite the height of this rank, and the unlikelihood of anyone who has not undergone an intensive spiritual education reaching it, it presents a useful example to the whole of humanity of what their attitude might be. While recognizing our actual limitations, it is still helpful to aspire to a level of human development which is more encompassing than our present one. God, who is not determined by anything, has qualified himself both with compassion and with responding to the request of those who call upon him. By our requests, whether spoken or silent, yet expressed by our state, we constantly determine over reality. Ibn Arabi suggests that instead of conditioning God to our own understanding, we should allow his superior wisdom to prevail. We need to empty ourselves of ourselves and allow our heart to be available to him as the place of unlimited appearance. This is the place of no place. It neither contains the unlimited, nor does it not contain it. As Ibn Arabi writes, the God of belief takes on limits. This is the God that the heart of the servant can contain. But the unlimited God cannot be contained by anything, because he is the same as the things and the same as himself. You do not say of something that it contains itself, nor that it does not contain itself. So understand. In conclusion, like Ibn Arabi, we need to remain aware that God is both transcendent and immanent, both beyond us and with us. Inevitably, the journey continues, while the aim is to become realized in the already existing union with God. For the Quranic verse states, "We shall show them our signs on the horizons and in themselves, until they see that it is the real." However, Ibn Arabi points out that even the signs are limited, since both absoluteness and limitation makes a distinction. The knowledge which the knowers have of God the High, he writes in connection with this Quranic verse, is not from seeing the exterior and interior signs, since they indicate either the limited in the absolute or the absolute in the limited. But the knowers of God see him as the same as everything. Finally, with regard to the Black Book and its epigraph, Ayman comments on its disenchantment at the idea that there lies a secret somewhere with the magical power to transform our lives, a Mount Kaf that will fill our lives with bliss when we finally reach it. The loss of mystery and the loss of meaning consequently leads to an emptiness and a nostalgic longing for a time of certainty when it was known that if the signs were everywhere, if they resided in everything, then the mystery was also everywhere and residing in everything. Orhan Pamuk's book causes the reader to question the signs, to question the existence even of the metaphysical Mount Kaf, the existence of a secret centre and of meaning at all. And Ibn Arabi's writings also challenge our beliefs and ideologies, but they do not leave us lost in meaninglessness due to Ibn Arabi's certainty in the love and compassion which pervades the whole of existence. For it is unquantifiable and unqualifiable love that transforms the meaningless into the meaningful, and is that which we search for in ourselves. Then what we perceive interiorly and exteriorly are not signs that point to something else or somewhere else, because there is nothing and nowhere else. When the mountain has been climbed and crumbles to dust, when it is indeed known that there is not nor ever was any such mountain, then the total loving presence that is everywhere and nowhere can appear freely in both glory and beauty. And finally, a quotation from Ibn Arabi's Futuhat, where he is told by the mysterious youth, the Fatah, "O you who seek the way that leads to the secret, return again, for it is in yourself that the whole secret is found."